All right, we're live here. We'll get the tweet sending out.
Oh yeah,
We'll
that's
get
right. I forgot
started
that
here.
we don't get going right away. Exactly, right off at the gates.
Yeah. So what happened? So I was watching most of Mac and Goo's,
Oh, yeah.
300th episode, but it's not 300 episodes. I must have missed that part. What's
No,
the asterisk?
I don't. It's what is it? They
Is this
did it
something from the
they did it on
previous
290
platform?
this is $2.99. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's all because they're
Falcon
going to
and the
do
Winter
their.
Soldier.
That's exactly what it's Falcon and the Winter Soldier. If I
Okay.
could spit it out, my God. But yes.
We were right around. I got it. Okay.
Yeah, you figured it out yourself. You're a big boy. But that's what it was, which is still a weird move on their part. I mean, I guess they can't do it afterwards either because they're going to do Invincible, which we're not certain if we're going to do that because I know you're not a huge fan of it.
I got to catch up. I haven't watched 6 yet, but yeah.
But you also haven't liked it so far.
Yeah, but that's a me thing though. I'm not totally out on it yet.
Okay.
I think it's just I haven't been fully committed.
Well, then that's going to call into question how we're going to handle that versus Mortal Kombat because I think we were planning on doing Mortal Kombat the episode after Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then it would make more sense if we're going to do Invincible to do that after Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We could do a combo episode. We've talked about doing one of those for a while. So,
well, this is what I got penned in on our master sheet right here. So we got Civil War currently. And then next week we got the exit survey for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The Mortal Kombat exit survey on the first week of May 4th. May the 4th be with you. Wow. Should be maybe Star Wars related there.
Maybe.
And then the next week I had to build a cinema placeholder year 2009. But we have a couple of free plays after that too. 518's open, and then 525 we have the Free Guy review. Again, another placeholder.
Well, I mean, we could be good. Who knows?
Yeah, but again, if something comes up and strikes us, I don't think we have to be beholden to that.
Right. But the thing that sucks about the Mortal Kombat one, because I'm sure people are going to want to watch that one right away. At least people that listen to our show and everybody else in the DSG is we normally, because it's on HBO right away, we could talk about that.
Yeah,
we would talk about that this upcoming episode, but we're not going to be able to do that. So
and after months and months of not having anything to talk about. Yeah, we suddenly have a logjam of content.
Yeah, right? And that's why when Mac, when they talked about, for those who listen to Mac and Goo and we're on the listen to the news dump, when Mac said we're running out of content or like we're out of ideas because we did the Goo's fake episodes.
Right.
We try and get creative with stuff. We are, believe me, I never thought we were short on ideas. And if you look at Wes's fucking spreadsheet, we are more than okay. Spreadsheet. What?
There's no Wes in team, There's no Wes in Change My Mind.
Our spreadsheet, we are more than fine. Like, forget the stuff that's in the back of my mind. Everything that we have written down, we are fine. We just wanted to test it out.
Yeah, everyone though. Yeah, that's what everyone says. They don't like the Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Oh, you can't. You're running out of ideas and stuff. And all that.
That was stupid.
It's just I think that's a podcaster's. Punch right there. It's a podcaster. If I can get illiterate with you real quick, that's something that all kind of podcasters say. That's kind of like, oh yeah,
that guy,
you get it.
They have no idea what they're doing. Yeah, Mac wouldn't fucking know anyways. But it's like Goo comes up with all their ideas.
Who knows? I think Mac could be a humble genius.
Yeah, I think Mac's biggest fear is success, but that's a whole nother story for another day.
Oh, okay. Oh wow, it's getting deep here. Okay, yeah. Let's get started before we get any deeper. You have to charge. You're running a clock here.
It's a problem I run into a lot, Wes, if we're being honest. But
going deep, huh?
Yeah, too deep.
Or people going deep on you.
Well, we'll just leave it at that and let the people decide. We're other people's podcast.
That's it. Okay, you marked the time down there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, ready and I got a bug on my screen. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Longing, rusted, furnace, daybreak, 17, benign, 9, homecoming, 1, freight car.
All right, I'm ready to go now. I don't know what happened.
All right, welcome back to another edition of the Change My Mind podcast, part of the #Dorkshire Gooniverse, along with Geeks Worldwide Radio and Midnight.fm. I am Wesley Sykes, and through the other side of the ether is the Ulysses S. Grant to my Stonewall Jackson, Mr. Nick Fryer, comedian for hire.
I did not see that coming. So wait a minute. Did I misread the spreadsheet? Are we talking about the American Civil War today?
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of all things on the table here. I think Marvel has become such a part of a fabric of society today that we say Civil War so much that people forget that there was a real one that happened, what, in the 1800s there?
Yeah, it's been a little while, yeah.
It's been a while. Also, Ulysses S. Grant sounds more like a name of like a naval ship than like a person.
Yes. I don't know if anybody... I wonder when the last...
Come aboard the Ulysses S. Grant.
Who was the last person to name their kid Ulysses?
That's a great, yeah, I like that.
Is there any existing Ulysses out there right now? I'm sure if I look on Facebook, I can find
Ulysses Sykes. I might drop that. That might make the short list of future kids.
Between that and 7?
Yeah, baby Yuli.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I guess. What would be Ulysses for short?
Sissy?
So, yeah. Oh, no, we got to cross that off the list. That's too easy. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, if I thought of it that quickly, then it's definitely way too easy.
All right, Nick, we are going to be cracking open the MCU rewatch vault very early, almost in back-to-back weeks here to discuss the first installment of Phase 3 in the MCU, 2016's epic crossover battle, Captain America Civil War. But before that, Nick, in honor of Baron Zemo's preferred breakfast of black coffee and a side of bacon, what is your favorite thing to have for breakfast? I'm pretty sure I've asked you this question once, if not twice, if not thrice.
Well, you have to ask me now because your other podcast partner on, is it Shield Play now? Is that the name? Okay, Shield Play.
Living up, right? The show is certainly living up to the name finally.
Yeah. Absolutely. So on your podcast partner on Shield Play, Goo, also of the Mac and Goo podcast, compared me to or likened me to Baron Zemo recently in a complimentary fashion. So I think it's fitting that you asked me that now. But I don't eat breakfast.
Baron Zemo, I mean, that is a great compliment. I think he's smart, he's calculated, he's handsome, he knows when he's rich, Yeah, he's a little maniacal. But.
Yeah, he will. I think we'll talk about it here a little bit. He's a little bitter more than anything because I think we see what. Before I get ahead of myself,
nobody's perfect.
I don't eat breakfast anymore. I love breakfast food, so I will eat that later in the day. I love eggs. I like bacon a lot, jelly toast, but I just have black coffee in the morning, and I absolutely love it.
But when you do have breakfast foods, how about that? We'll put.
Okay, so there's a couple diners right near where I live, and one of them's called Gina's Diner. Free plug for them, and.
Gina. Are we sure about the pronunciation?
Gina's Diner. Yes, that is correct.
Gotcha.
They have a Charisse hash. Comes with eggs as well. I get egg whites whenever I go out to eat too. Absolutely love it.
So do you do any of the Portuguese sweetbread?
I do that sometimes. I haven't done it in a while though. Now that you say, but I'm more inclined to go with a bolos before Portuguese sweetbread.
How about? I know you said you're a black coffee guy, but do you put a little coffee syrup in your milk, a little coffee milk?
No.
That's a Portuguese thing. It's a big Portuguese thing.
No, that is not something I'm familiar with. See, my mom didn't drink coffee till much later in life, and then she didn't teach me those ways, I guess.
Well, it's like coffee flavor, it's like coffee ice cream, that sort of thing. Yeah, this is the things that you learn on the mean streets of New Beige.
Well, see, I stay on the Fall River side of the South Coast.
Well, when you joined me for the Feast of the Blessed Sacrament, the first weekend of August this year, a year after holding off in New Bedford, we can experience such things together. Maybe enjoy maybe we can discuss some of this over a pastaginata. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I got to give you. I don't know if he has any more left, but my grandfather makes wine, and I actually help him do that. So,
really? The Madeira wine is strong stuff.
A little Danige wine, so it's definitely some strong stuff. Let me tell you. But what is your favorite breakfast food? Because I don't remember. I feel like you have asked me before though.
Right? Yeah. So, like you, I don't eat breakfast anymore. I have a cup of coffee, and I drink 2 bottles of water, and then I have about 12 different vitamin gummies, and that's kind of my breakfast. Ranging from magnesium to vitamin D to vitamin C to a multivitamin to turmeric, all that good stuff. But then for breakfast foods, it's usually 3 eggs and protein shake. That's kind of what I've been having at noon. That's when that's my breakfast meal. 3 eggs, protein shake with a little bit of berries, some almond milk in there. That's delicious. Egg tacos, maybe some chicken sausage.
Wait a minute, tacos, not burritos?
Tacos, yeah, like little street tacos, like the small little like corn or flour tortillas. Slice up half an avocado, A little bit of chicken sausage, a little bit of eggs, a little hot sauce, maybe some feta cheese. Delicious.
Okay, the
High in protein.
The tortilla I can understand, but a taco, like a taco shell in
Not
the
a hard
morning.
shell. No. I'm a soft
Okay.
shell guy all the time. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That makes more sense for breakfast.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm not crazy. Hard shell. No. I'm not a hard shell guy. That's lunacy.
well, I like hard shell at night if I'm having tacos, but breakfast taco would be just insane. But you have to change.
Now I feel like we're getting into all sorts of euphemisms, and I'm not sure where the conversation's going anymore.
Well, I would like to just say really quickly before we move on that we need to include in our intro either we're the healthiest podcast in the DSG or the fittest, whichever way you want to go. I'm very happy with because we're the only guys I think that intermittent fast on the in the DSG. Holy shit, Wes!
Yeah, that's it. That's coming.
You got a license for those things?
Well, it's I am pro 2A, so we're gonna have to get those registered pretty soon.
It just hit me out of nowhere. I didn't know those existed.
Well, I've been practicing social fitnessing over the time. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay.
But on to bigger and better news other than my guns. Falcon and the Winter Soldier season 1 episode 5, bringing out the big guns. Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Woo!
I know we usually discuss who won the episode and take the perspective of Sam and Bucky. However, I'm saying, like we probably did last week and probably for the duration of most of this, we forego that because I think Sam won the episode. He kind of reclaimed the shield. He's getting new wings. He's probably getting a new sidekick and our boy Torres, who's going to redesign the wings of some sorts, I would imagine, and take up the Falcon mantle when Falcon becomes Captain America. So I think he's the winner there, right?
I don't think it's in question. And I know that there was, of course, we had a lot of action at the very beginning, and then the rest of the episode was a lot of talk. And sometimes it can be a little annoying when that happens. But with this episode, I felt like the conversation with Isaiah Bradley was awesome, and then the conversation with Bucky too, and like Sam giving him tough love, and then Bucky finally hearing him too. After this whole time, he's been frustrated with him throughout all of this, and now Bucky gets it, and I think that growth that Bucky goes through, and then Sam realizing like he can either do what Isaiah has done now, and I get why Isaiah Bradley is so bitter after what happened with him.
Oh my God, who wouldn't be 30 years of getting experimented on, then just get your life erased from you, and like you're not even existing anymore after helping your country or your countrymen at that point? Absolutely. Who wouldn't be bitter?
Yeah, and Sam could get burned in the end, but I think that what will happen, everything that's happened with John Walker, and there's been growth since what happened to Isaiah Bradley. I think Sam Wilson can go and take on the mantle of Captain America and show, help America grow a little bit. I mean, look what happened with Bucky, and he's freaking he was around when the Hobbit was born. So not that he's prejudiced or anything, but his way of thinking.
Right. Yeah.
He
has to get up to speed a lot faster than the rest of us would. Right.
Yeah, because him and Cap, he said him and Steve, they just didn't think about what it would be like for a black man to become Captain America. So I mean, they don't think like that. They're very advanced, like from.
They've been frozen. Okay. Bucky's brain's all mush. But I also think what was kind of interesting is the idea of the villain stuff. And I talked about this a little bit on Shield Play. Carly Morgenthau, very kind of like a meek, underspoken hero. And I love her. I love her accent. I think she's been great in this. But do you think she's someone who can really galvanize a movement like this? And do you think that it was maybe a misstep in not focusing more on John Walker instead of Carly Morgenthau? Because it feels like John Walker is kind of like the B villain to the Flag Smashers and Carly Morgenthau.
Yeah, I do think that's the case. But I think What's interesting about Netflix did this, and Marvel is now doing this with WandaVision, and now Falcon and the Winter Soldier to, I guess, maybe a lesser degree. I'm not certain, but either way, we have these characters that we focus on primarily, but there's so much else going on that it's not like you're just locked in on like one side versus the other. It's just, and I feel like with life, you're not just one side versus the other all the time. So there's a lot of craziness going on. So I like that we have Zemo, who's still a wild card and all this too, as much as he's now been taken away. Then John Walker, who's kind of a villain and also a wild card and all this too. And now Carly too, who's appears to be a villain, but again, it's a matter of perspective because when we started talking about this at the beginning, her idea of having everybody united as one Earth instead of countries, I don't blame her for thinking that way, but she has gone nuts.
Right. Yeah. And I think also too, like the idea, often things like that work great in theory, but it's tougher to execute. Right. But I also think too, I just think U.S. Agent and John Walker and his whole battle and inner turmoil that he's facing about, of course, feeling wronged by the government and then being exiled, but and just feeling like he was carrying out orders, but obviously going, well beyond the lines. And there's these kind of references that Lamar makes before he dies about, the stuff that they did in order to get those Medal of Honors. It wasn't exactly on par, right? It wasn't all exactly up and up, but it's tough to kind of judge a person, like what they do in the midst of war.
Mm-hmm.
So I think John Walker's kind of a misunderstood person. I think he's more good than bad. And I'm interested to see where he goes, because I don't think he's going to get killed off here. I think obviously, I think he's going to be whether he goes to the raft with Zemo, which I thought was a very interesting reference, and I think obviously leads to my favorite red herring in the MCU, Thunderbolt Ross, and the connection of the Thunderbolts or the Dark Avengers, of course, with Val there as well. I think there's going to be some sort of getting the team back together, the bad guys together, sort of thing, much like Nick Fury did at the end of Iron Man and throughout the first series of Phase 1.
And when people feel like Disney, how's Marvel doing with Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Some may think it's a step back from WandaVision. What's going on with John Walker prompted the New York Post to write a column titled "Disney's Ugly Transformation of a U.S. Hero into a Villain."
Oh, yeah, he's like getting death threats and stuff. The actor, yeah,
we talked about that a while back. How that sort of stuff isn't okay. That shouldn't be happening. This guy doesn't deserve that. However,
no, I think he's done a really good job.
The disdain and frustration that people have with this character is he's done an outstanding job, and Marvel did an outstanding job in that regard. It's just that people got to realize that it'd be nice if people realize that he's actually just, he's an actor doing his job, and more importantly, he represents what's wrong with like the government and the country, how they're trying to push the wrong people just because of their physical appearance. Whereas Sam Wilson should clear as day be the guy. It's more about what he represents than actually who he is. Of course, he goes friggin' crackers, but that's a whole nother thing.
And I touched on this again in Shield play as well, but the idea that he keeps reiterating that he is Captain America over and over. He says it like three or four times throughout the episode. And I think while he's not Captain America, Steve Rogers, the person and the idea of Captain America that we saw kind of throughout the MCU, he is Captain America in the sense that the American government and military created him. So he is a byproduct of that, and he is a military captain. So, like a little bit of a shift and a play on words, but I think that's what he believes, and that's what's motivating him, through the rest of the series. But we did get another MCU, big drop here as we're coming up. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings trailer today. I believe it was the lead character. I'm going to butcher his name. I don't have it in front of me. Who will be playing Shang-Chi. It was his birthday today. So that was kind of the big reason that they released it. And with the release date of September 3rd, 2021, what do you think, Nick?
I'll tell you what. I've been, and I believe the actor's name is Simu Liu. I'm sure. So I know you like when I try to pronounce the name.
Yes.
But I was looking forward to this movie because Black Widow, I'm excited about it, and I'm sure it'll be good, but it's thinking about how that's going to fit in with everything is kind of odd, although we'll talk about it with our main subject today. I think that something clicked when I was watching Civil War about what could happen, at least a little bit, in Black Widow. But I've been excited for Shang-Chi just because it's going to take us that next step forward. Now, having seen the trailer, this thing's going to kick ass. We're getting some awesome action in this, and I'm sure the story's going to end up being good too. So I don't know much about the character, Wes. I didn't read Shang-Chi, but there's a lot of time between now and September, so maybe we'll have to read a little bit up on it and talk about it on TLDR.
Yeah, and absolutely. And when we talk about things that we already know so much about, and kind of when we get these early trailers, early glimpses or release dates for new movie titles and that sort of thing, like we can kind of look ahead and say, oh, Loki, they're going to be doing time traveling. It's going to be TVA, and we kind of have an idea. There's not a whole lot of information of Shang-Chi out there. I'm sure you could dig it, but it's not. I think you have to go below that first surface level there. which I kind of like. So there's that element of surprise there that you know, maybe that isn't as prevalent with the other MCU movies. But you get animals in here. There's supposedly a dragon if you look up toy leaks in this, but there's a lion in the trailer. You got horses. You got a whole lot of cool stuff going on there, right? And you say what it could tie into. Maybe something with Doctor Strange or mysticism. I think that's probably where we're going, right?
Makes the most sense. And I mean, you got to start getting stuff going with Doctor Strange at some point along.
Although the GRC, the Global Repatriation Net, you know, with the 10 rings, that's supposed to be like a terrorist group, and the big difference, right? The rings aren't on the fingers; it looks like they're on the forearms. That seemed to be a little bit of an update, you know, MCU, you know, Marvel update there.
I think that there are a lot of directions. Well, it's clear as day. There are a lot of directions that Marvel can go in right now. They've said, you know, with what they got going on in Falcon and the Winter Soldier versus WandaVision. I mean, we don't know. I don't know exactly what how many phases they're going to try and do it. What was it? It ended up being 3 times, right? 3 phases that they had before the Infinity Saga wrapped up. So I would imagine it's going to be the same thing. So you're going to be building up for a lot of stuff. I just wonder. You got the Multiverse Madness stuff coming up really soon. So what's going to happen with the Flag Smashers? Is that like just going to be a Falcon, Winter Soldier, like, you know, Cap type heroes thing that they're dealing with, or are we going to see that build up into something more? So I'm not certain, but I mean, Wes, the possibilities seem endless right now. So I'm really excited with Shang-Chi.
I love it. The possibilities are endless. Tell me what's going on in NFT news real quick, and then roll that. I think that rolls perfectly in the comic book minute.
Yeah. So you are a big NFT guy. And you're the NFT.
I guess
you're the NFT guy of the DSG, wouldn't you say so?
No, I know what it means. I don't really know how it works or how to do it. I would like to.
Oh, I thought you were in on that stuff.
Well, I made a crypto, you know, a couple of coins here and there, trying to get my stacks up. But
isn't crypto that?
I think it's, you know, in the same neighborhood. I'm not sure if it's on the same street. Maybe on the same block.
I thought crypto was a type of NFT.
I think. Okay. NFT is a type of crypto. Like it operates on the blockchain. But if you ask me what the blockchain is, I don't really know. I just know that I put money into a platform, and then sometimes I come out with more money, and then other days I come out with less money.
Okay.
You know, that's all I really know.
Gotcha. Well, turns out, Wes, that at least some 87-year-olds are figuring out how to use cryptocurrency, because an 87-year-old comic book artist reportedly is making millions off of selling NFTs. This report came from the LA. This report came off the LA Times, but of course I'm reading it on comicbook.com because we're all about aggregation now. Apparently, Jose Delbo, an artist known for his work on Wonder Woman and Transformers, found a new outlet for his artwork within the NFT market. Fans bought a set of NFTs from Delbo within the artist team Hacktow this spring, which features art involving Wonder Woman, and earned the equivalent of nearly $2 million. I don't get it's equivalent. So that's where I was going to ask you, like, so wait a minute, is it not $2 million? Can you not like make an exchange somewhere? That's where I get confused with all this stuff.
So, I mean, I would imagine it gets a payment in a Bitcoin or something like that, some other crypto exchange where you then can exchange that for US dollars if you still believe in the U.S. fiat system. Dr. Joe Gilmore, it's artwork that has a cryptocurrency type value. TB12 is getting in the NFT game. Thank you, Dr. Joe. Yeah, and I think it's right, not just artwork, but it's also, I guess this is just different umbrellas, but like music and gifts and all that sort of stuff that you can get in. In fact, not Gonzaga freshman Jalen Suggs, right? Familiar game-winning shot there in the Final Four against, what was it, UCLA? He is going pro. He's announced that he's going pro, and like immediately after that announcement, also announced that he's going to be releasing a 1-of-1 NFT of his game-winning shot in the Final Four. So,
and someone will pay for that, and I don't.
Good for him. Get your money, man. That's a big shot. Cash in while it's still hot. You know, like that's not. I don't know if that's going to be like a Christian Laettner type shot because Gonzaga didn't win.
Yeah,
people remember it, you know, but like cash in while you can.
Yeah, I just don't get like the whole Top Shot market. That's another thing that I just don't understand. They're doing it over at work now, but some people love that stuff and pay a lot of money for it. But
well, it's like Magic the Gathering and like I think like Yu-Gi-Oh cards,
physical cards.
I agree. Yeah. But this is the same conversation that people were having about Bitcoin 10 years ago when like it was offered to me like, hey, you should buy some of this for like $100 or whatever it was, and I'm like, That's the exact same thing I said.
And you didn't
And
go
for
in on
years after, I was just eating like ramen noodles, like pancakes three times a day, you know.
Oh,
Not that there's anything wrong with pancakes, but
right. No, pancakes are
that's
fine.
quick, yeah.
But if you're everybody knows when you start citing ramen noodles, there's some issues there. But anyways,
yeah.
As for the comic book minute, I'm reviewing Nightwing 79 this week. This is the second issue in Tom Taylor's run with the character. It's off to a really good start. If you guys were down on Rick Grayson, which was understandably so, get in now because Tom Taylor's taking the character in the right direction.
Rick Grayson, I'm sorry, did you say Rick?
Dick. He was Rick for a bit. There was a period where he like lost his memory and then he became Rick Grayson.
Right, so, I like that. He was almost there. He almost got it back.
Yeah, it was that was a mess. It served a purpose, and it was like the purpose I was fine with, but they took too long with it. Anyways, I'm curious if Shime's going to read this. I'm going to have to ask him. There's a DC's releasing the first issue of Batman Fortnite 0 Point this week, and I skimmed through it, and I don't think it's for me at all. But I'm curious if Fortnite people are going to go and give this a shot. The one other thing that I did want to mention was Marvel is releasing the first issue of Way of X, issue 1. Nightcrawler's on the cover of this, so it seems like it's going to be a whole religious thing centered around the X-Men and what they got going on in their own little island now. I'm very I always get it on religious type of stuff in comics, whether it's Preacher or I love the commentary that because they always go in a odd direction with it. So I'm curious where Nightcrawler's going to go because he's a very devout. He was a devout Christian, or Catholic, whatever. So,
Christian is the umbrella. You got it.
Yeah. People get so technical with this stuff. I don't know. Anyways, for more comic book stuff, make sure you guys listen to TLDR, which is my other show that I do with Dr. Joe. I will be talking about a Winter Soldier book this week. It came out from It ran from 2011 to 2012, something like that. So,
looks good.
I'll be talking about that this week, leading up to the final issue of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And we also had Cullen Bunn back on the show. So if you guys want to go listen to that interview, that is available for you now. But Wes, enough about the comic book stuff. Let's talk about a comic book movie.
Yeah.
For MCU Rewatch Vault, Captain America Civil War, which came out in 2016. You want to hit us with the synopsis, please?
Yes, it is a political involvement in the Avengers' affairs that causes a rift between Captain America and Iron Man, and many more, as we found out.
Yes, speaking of many more, the cast and crew directed by Anthony and Joe Russo, starring Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson, Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie, Don Cheadle, Jeremy Renner, Chadwick Boseman, Paul Bettany, Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Rudd, Emily Van Camp, Tom Holland, Daniel Bruhl, I don't know if I said that right or wrong, I apologize, Frank Grillo, William Hurt, and Marissa Tomei.
And that's not even like half the cast. I mean, if you want to get into the side characters and things like that with like Emily Van Camp and that sort of thing, like, there's a whole bunch of that. We cut it off there. But at any point, the critic reception, 7.8 out of 10 on IMDb, which I'm kind of surprised. It sounds very low because Rotten Tomatoes, 90-89 split in Rotten Tomatoes, certified fresh with a critics consensus of, quote, Captain America Civil War begins the next wave of Marvel movies with an action-packed superhero blockbuster boasting a decidedly non-cartoonish plot and the courage to explore thought-provoking themes.
Thought-provoking themes?
Kind of.
Yeah, I guess because we will probably we'll get into that as we go along. But as for the box office, it pulled in $1.15 billion, $408 million domestically, including $179 million at the opening weekend. Spent 2 weeks at number 1 and 5 weeks in the top 5. The $1.15 billion ranks 7th ahead of Captain Marvel and all the MCU, and behind Iron Man 3, which is
give some respect to my boy, Iron Man 3.
It's the $4 billion MCU movie, and there's 8 total. It was the 4th one that in the course of all of the chronologically speaking, there's 8 total. The highest grossing film of 2016 and the 12th highest grossing film of all time at that time.
Yes, a lot of good stuff there. Thank you, Nick. And let's start with our score and tweet length reviews before we hop into it here. And we're I'll just say right off the bat, we're in agreement here.
So I was gonna let you go first on this.
I appreciate that here. 93 out of 100. I think I'll say that, speak for both of us here. I'm not sure there was a more fun movie experience than this at the time. Like I was so happy that the introduction of Black Panther, of Spider-Man grinning ear to ear. I had a great, even like the Frank Grillo early, like right off the bat, action scenes. Loved it. It does a great job of presenting what we love about the MCU, the action sequences and the world building with real world consequences and conflict, which I just mentioned there, right? Awesome additions to the overall story with Spider-Man and Black Panther, and weaved in pretty well. I think it all kind of happened seamlessly. Stakes not high enough, though. I think that's what everybody, right? I think that's kind of the consensus critique on it.
Yeah, and I gave this a 93 out of 100 as well. And this was not the Civil War I thought we'd get when I first saw this. So at that time, I felt like they used an awesome comic book title to reel in people when they didn't need to. We were already all in on the MCU anyways at that point. But now I appreciate where Marvel made some changes, seeing how much more they still have to offer. So I've kind of forgiven what they did. I still liked it. I probably had it at I don't know. I didn't rate it at the time. Probably like around a 90, 89. I wouldn't have had it that much lower, but it was just, it was still one of my maybe top 5 or top, I don't know. At least for sure in the top 10, easily that. But now, I've gone away from my tweet length review, West, at this point. But
I did too. We're going into a whole thread at this point.
Yeah, exactly. But now looking back on it, upon rewatch, this movie's so much better than I remembered it.
Yeah, I agree. And folks at home, you're probably wondering, hey guys, you've been doing this MCU rewatch vault thing for how long now? What are the rankings? Where do we all stand? What does it all mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Isn't that what we're always asking here?
What does it all mean?
Well, folks, I'm here to tell you, we have our top 12 from the first 2 phases of to date of the MCU during our rewatch here, and we're going to even plug in the first phase of the phase 3 for the folks at home here. Mm-hmm. So why don't we run through our dirty dozen, right? Unlucky 13.
Top to bottom, Wes, or bottom to top?
Oh, let's start at number 13.
Okay, so number 13 is The Incredible Hulk, which I gave a 70 and you gave a 72 for an average score of 71.
Yes, and then right after that, Thor 2, The Dark World, with an average of a 75. Of course, a 76-74 split here.
Then we had a 76-74 split on Thor. Again, I was a 76 on that one. You were 74. And that was an average of 75 on that one. That one, I guess we're calling it a tie 10?
Well, the tiebreaker is we've had guests on, right? Goo, I believe Goo was one of them.
Rossi was on for Thor: The Dark World.
One of them, and then someone else was on. I forget for Thor.
Shine
was on the first one. Yes, thank you. So they had the higher rankings of the 2, so they kind of get the kicker there. Number 9, Iron Man 2. Nick gave it an 80. I gave it a 78 for a 79 split. Math is very easy here. Number 8 for us, Nick.
Is Avengers Age of Ultron, which we had Doc on for. I gave that a 78 and Wes gave that an 82. I think it's the first one that we've talked about here so far that you actually gave the higher ranking, and we got an average score of 80 there.
Yes, at number 7, we have the first installment of Captain America, the first Avenger, with an 83-84 split from us for an average of 83.5.
Yes, and again, Wes gave the higher score there. And we got another one where you gave the higher score. This is going to end that little streak, though. At number 6, Iron Man 3, which we had Shime on for that one. 81-87 split for the Change My Mind Boys for an 84 overall grading.
Yes, and number 5 is the original Iron Man with an 89-86 split, good for an 87.5.
I'm blown away by that you gave that one a lower grade than Iron Man 3, but whatever. Ant-Man comes in at number 4, 90-88 split for 89 overall.
Number 3 is the Avengers, 92-91. It's a 91.5.
Yes, and then actually we haven't inserted it yet into our rankings, but this movie would fit in at actually number 3, so that would bump everything else we talked about a step down. But Guardians of the Galaxy coming in this episode was our number 2, remains our number 2 at 93 with a 94-92 split. It'll, of course, get the advantage with the 94 being the higher grade, courtesy of me.
Yeah, and currently our top movie that we have to date, Captain America, the Winter Soldier, with a 94-93 split, good for a 93.5 ranking. That is our top. So it kind of pains me as an Iron Man guy. If you go back to our CMM debates, Iron Man versus Cap here, it pains me to say that the top two movies are Captain America sequels. However, I did it, so I can only be mad at myself, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I can't believe Guardians is ahead of Winter Soldier. I have them as the same grade, but I forgot that you gave it a slightly lower grade. But
yeah, and it almost goes in order of all of our actual grades, with the exception of Iron Man 3. Yeah, that's the one real bugaboo in there. So maybe we'll tweet out our rankings to date, and maybe you could let us know where we went wrong or where we went right. But right now, before we hop into our categories, we thought it would be pertinent to bring someone on, the author of the theory of the person who wrote the Sokovia Accords, which is, I believe, it's been adopted by Google. And those who are familiar with the DSG and the Mac and Goop program may have heard this once. They may have heard this a million times before, but maybe our folks at Geeks Worldwide, at Midnight.fm, or any listeners who are just kind of picking us up on the podcast streams out there would like to know why Tony Stark, in fact, wrote the Sokovia Accords. And to do just that, we bring in Professor Goo of the Mac and Goop program, Mr. 300.
How are none of the other Avengers aware of this massive law being introduced / put into place? Fryer?
I don't know.
It seems like someone might have written them. Literally, right after he was just yelled at by a mother who, hey, you killed my son. He's sitting there. He's already had PTSD, Iron Man 3. He just lost Pepper Potts. He has played God in at least 4 of these movies. He has created life, and that life has ended many lives. There is so much weighing on his soul, and the only way that he is able to not only control those around him, because he feels like the other Avengers, those are his family. And the best way to keep them all within striking distance of him, all in the same house as him, all under the same control as him, is the Sokovia Accords. But more importantly, the only thing that'll keep him in line, because he's the real bad guy in the MCU. He knows this. The only way to keep him in line is legislature.
I like that. The real villain in the MCU is the ultimate protagonist. I really like that. That's a nice little spin on it.
Because why else would, or who else would demand that all superheroes, they have to show and tell everyone who they are? Maybe it's the superhero that in his own first movie blurted out that he is Iron Man at the end.
Oh, wow. You're blowing my mind right now. In fact, not that you had to change my mind, but if I had to change my mind, you would be changing my mind.
Honestly, Goo, after rewatching this too, since hearing your theory, I totally buy it. Like seeing how Tony acts and everything,
he's laying in the background.
It's really in that first scene. If you watch that first scene when Thunderbolt Ross is introducing them. Now, Thunderbolt Ross might have had something to do with it, but I feel like he's just the stooge that is, Tony's like, hey, I can't do this, but can you say this? Right. You're a strong, authoritative character in this universe. I'm going to sit in the back. Tony is so quiet, looking down, ashamed, maybe at himself for what he has done.
Yep. Yeah, and even more so when he's talking to Steve about Pepper and that sort of thing, and he's like, "I thought the Accords could split the difference." So
exactly, that's the main thing.
At that point, that he's like trying, it's coming not just from, it's coming more from a selfish place than anything.
Yes, and of course he has those endgame visions. That in Ultron, Ultron is really so. This is when you realize that he wrote them. But then if you go back and you watch Ultron, there's so many more pieces of bread to pick up of why he would write them.
And just to maybe elaborate a little bit further, do you have a for instance?
There is several conversations about creating life between him and Bruce Banner. And Bruce several times is like, wait, we shouldn't be doing this. You know that we shouldn't be doing this. And it's really the creation of Ultron. And then he then says, okay, we now need to create this new life in Vision to kill this old life that I just created.
I love it. So this was clearly in our unanswerable questions for some period of time. The what is the name of the unanswerable questions award here, Nick? The Quantum Realm Award. Yes. Excuse me. But I don't even think it's appropriate to put in here because I think this idea and this theory has become so adopted by the masses that if you were to type it into Google, what would pop up?
Here we go.
It says if you write who wrote the Sokovia Accords in big letters, Tony Stark.
And it kind of points to that theory. And it's almost like the Wikipedia, like not even a website definition. Yeah. Like it's the Google answer before you can even click on it. So I think that's validation. Big J journalism, I think that's a good enough source to go for one source.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have one question for Goo, and this may be unanswerable because we're never going to see the whole Sokovia Accords written out. But Goo, if you had access to the entire Sokovia Accords, do you think you could read the entire thing?
No. Oh my God. If Tony Stark wrote these and everyone says, well, he's not much of a writer, how would he have written these in 1 or 2 nights after getting that guilt trip by the mom? He created an Iron Man suit. He can do anything.
Well, and you go back to the Avengers, right? When they're reading the assessment plan from Nick Fury, and he's like, what, did nobody do the reading? And he was like on his plane ride over to the meeting. He learned all that stuff. So the guy's clearly a genius, aside from all the tech stuff.
Yeah.
Reading is power, I think is the saying, right?
All right, Goo. We always appreciate you. Where can the people find you?
You can find me at Mac and Goo Podcast. You can actually find a full, I think it's 10 or 15 minutes of me explaining in further detail. There's some sound clips, a little bit more with Ultron of why this has happened. That's somewhere on our feed. Give it a search, give it a Googs. And then this past week, we did our 300th episode. So
congratulate you. You're 299th.
And of course, this is I'm going skiing right now here with my 2 co-hosts of the podcast. She'll play the Falcon and the Winter Soldier podcast. We're going to be doing our season finale, of course, on episode 6, Friday morning, sharp.
Sharp on Friday morning. And then maybe we'll do one more just as a complete season recap. And then we have like a month off.
Yeah, a month off. Summer vacation. Yeah,
a little vacation, a little Marvel vacation.
Give you enough time
teachers of sorts. Yeah, we deserve the summer vacation too.
And enough time to come up with a halfway decent Loki podcast name.
Loki Doki.
Plenty of time.
No, don't do that.
I think we did it.
No,
I think we did it. That's Goo, folks. We're going to end on that note.
Bye, Goo.
That is fantastic. That's from the Mac and Goo program and from Loki Doki, a Loki podcast. But okay, so let's get into the categories here. We already have the answer to the most unanswerable question from Captain America: Civil War. But before we do that, let's go to the On Your Left award, Nick, for the most rewatchable scene.
Okay, so I have a few nominees here. Of course, we have the airport scene. We have Cap and Bucky teaming up versus it looks like the military. They, of course, they go up against Black Panther, and that was pretty awesome too. But the stairwell fight, that stuff was insane. Bucky, his fighting was so much better than I remembered. And then the other one that I have as a nominee is Ant-Man taking apart Iron Man's suit, where Ant-Man goes, "Oh, you're going to have to take this into the shop." And then Iron Man goes, "Who's speaking? It's your conscience." We don't talk a whole lot these days. It's great.
I think that's great. I think those are all great entrants. I love the Spider-Man introduction scene in Queens, like beginning from the moment where Black Widow and Tony are talking, and then they're like, "All right, our roster's pretty thin. Where's yours? Where's your idea?" And then it goes right to Queens, and you kind of get that music right into it. I love that whole back and forth. Again, that kind of real ear grinning moment, right? Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, I get what you mean.
I'm grinning with my ears from ear to ear at any point. That I really enjoy that. I enjoyed the quote new Avengers versus Crossbones scene, where I think Black Widow and Falcon shine the most. I think Black Widow's out there with like no weapons, no body armor. She's just out there and like riding equestrian boots, kicking ass, and like she just like dominates that whole scene. And Falcon, you see him, like they work really well together. And you kind of see him what he can do with his like little Red Wing drone tech.
Right.
Then of course the Iron Man versus Cap Bucky fight scene. I think that and the airport scene are probably the 2 most memorable scenes.
Yeah, the Iron Man Cap Bucky one is awesome. It's just that as much as I make fun of Iron Man, that one hurts. I mean, because like I feel because I'm sitting through this whole thing and I don't know. Well, I guess we can talk about it now.
And he had him too.
Well, Iron Man.
Yeah.
Well, he did, but at the same time, like Cap's pulling his punches too. Let's be honest. Cap.
Well, I think they both kind of were.
Well, Iron Man was not pulling his punches on Bucky, and I would think that
Bucky, not on Bucky.
Until Bucky went and tried to take that thing out of Iron Man's my God, what is it called? His chest.
His arc reactor.
His arc reactor. Until he tried to take that out of his chest, I felt like Bucky wasn't trying to kill him either. I just wonder, Wes. Like I was trying to think in that situation, if you were Cap, like what would you do? If you were Iron Man, what would you do? So it's
right.
It's
it's tough. I think you could understand both sides, right?
Yeah, you can.
It's all about your loyalty there.
But I think I'll go with that one.
What the Iron Man Cap Bucky final fight scene? Yeah, my heart wants to go with the Spider-Man scene. That's where my personal heart lies. But I think overall, it's got to be it's either the airport scene or the Iron Man versus Cap Bucky fight scene, because with the airport scene you get so many great things. I think Ant-Man's a real star of that. Black Panther is a great star in that. Spider-Man obviously is. So it's a real great opportunity for a lot of people to showcase. Some other people not so much, i.e. Hawkeye. That's one of my unanswerable questions moving forward. What was he doing in this movie?
Nothing but home runs for Ant-Man in this movie. I have a newfound appreciation for the character. I liked him beforehand, but man, after rewatching Ant-Man, which we talked about a little while back on the show for our rewatch vault, I love Ant-Man so much more than I did before. Scott Lang, he's great. But anyways,
Iron Man Cap Bucky fight scene. I think that's the three-way, the triple threat match, if you will, is the winner. So America's Ass Award. What aged the best, Nick?
I think. Oh, there we go. Okay, I lost my spot there. All right, so let's see. We have the MCU's interpretation of Baron Zemo. I think the character's only gotten better. He was awesome here, but he's gotten better as time's gone along. I know we looked at it a couple different ways with how things age the best. Cap holding back the chopper, like that image, everybody remembers that one. And I think it became a meme.
The curls for Jesus. He took a page right out of Billy D's book.
That's right. And then, of course, speaking of Hawkeye, the quote, "My name's Clint," to which T'Challa says, "I don't care." I mean, nobody is ever going to forget that line. Yeah. The idea that Tony Stark wrote the Sokovia Accord, which we talked with Goo, that has only gotten better in time. And then the other quote, I don't think this one became a meme at all, but can you move your seat up?
Is very gifable, though.
Yes. Can you move your seat up? No. I love that. Ugh.
Yeah, and I love MCU's interpretation of Baron Zemo. I think is spot on. And upon rewatch, you see that he was not just a Baron, but he is a colonel, right? A colonel in the Sokovian army that he led,
Black Ops,
like a special Black Ops group called like the Sokovian Kill Group or something like that. So again, that just leads more credence to his ability to lead a big tactical group of guys with weapons, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
I think
soldiers.
Yes, Marines. Exactly. So I think that maybe holds true for Thunderbolts, Dark Avengers type thing. But Tom Holland as Spider-Man, Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther, both of them, those two additions to the MCU and to this movie, perfect castings. I mean, Chadwick Boseman, when we have some casting what ifs later, I think he's perfect because he resembles that strong and that sleekness of a Black Panther. But also it's like slender too. Mm-hmm. He's not like bulky or huge and like muscular. So I think he kind of comes across that kind of cat likeness. That kind of comes across. Well, yeah, you got it. Tom Holland. Yeah, perfect.
Sorry,
that's nice with my headphones. I was like some ASMR stuff. I like that.
You ever heard a cat purr before?
Yeah.
I'm assuming you haven't because you don't have cats. Ever.
No, I'm not a cat guy.
Not a cat guy. Anyways, what else you got for me?
Black Widow. Black Widow. Was this the best portrayal as a Black Widow? I think.
Okay, it was good. Don't get me wrong. But I also liked her. We like her afterwards too. But I didn't hate her in Avengers 2, Iron Man 2. I thought she was good.
No,
there
I agree too. I think she's great, but I think this is best when we see her doing her double agent, triple agent thing. We see her kicking ass, but she's also very maternal in the group, obviously, and compassionate and empathizing with both sides too. So it's not just her double agent stuff. So I think a lot of her character. I think you see the most of her.
As much as Bucky kicked her ass right after he got brainwashed or re-triggered again, which, by the way, I didn't catch that at the beginning of the show. That's exactly what you wanted me to say, that I'm ready to comply, but that's beside the point. When they're fighting and she's like hammering him on his back, like her spin move where she gets on top of people is amazing. I don't know who's doing that.
Yeah.
I don't know who like her stunt double is, but that woman deserves a friggin' award because that shit's awesome. It's automatic too.
I know, and it looks like it's so easy. Like you just like lock your leg and then turn, and then it just happens.
I think
you turn to like a Decepticon all of a sudden. You know,
as the fittest guys in the DSG, one of us may have to give it a go at some point.
You first. Marissa Tomei.
Sure. Yeah.
I think in general just ages very well.
Yeah.
MCU hallway stairwell fight scenes, and then Tony's suits that get better and better. This time, a lot of hand stuff. You know, we don't see Iron Man for like the first hour and a half of this movie. It's all Tony Stark, and you get this, the little watch thing that turns into the repulsor ray on his hand, and then of course in the finger on his jet plane, he turns into Iron Man from there. Like I love the updates of the tech suits every time.
So those are all good ones, but I think the first one that I mentioned has to be the MCU's interpretation of Baron Zemo.
Baron Zemo, fist pump, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of Baron Zemo, we got the Mirror Match Villain Award up next for what aged the worst. Would you like to kick us off here, Wes?
The stakes. The stakes or lack thereof. This is a Civil War. You know, if it's supposedly based off a comic that is very brutal and graphic, a graphic novel even, right?
Yeah, sure.
I might go there.
Sure, why not? You just did.
I just did, yeah.
Look at here I am now too.
Nothing. All we get is paralyzed roads, and that's it. Tony Stark with a black eye and
in the actual comic, and maybe I'll talk about it on the show with Joe at some point. I don't know. I just feel like a lot of people who listen to the show have read that already. But Spider-Man gets his ass fucking handed to him in that. Punisher has to save him, and then Cap kicks the shit out of Punisher, who Punisher will not fight ever, but. It's totally different from, and I don't know if I guess I'm just going to step in real quick. The name, I couldn't jot this down, the name Civil War, I feel like in a way, knowing where it stands in Marvel Comics, that aged poorly in all this too. But anyways.
Absolutely. I agree. Maybe kind of hijacking the name and, taking advantage of comic books fans. Yeah, I can kind of see that. Also, I thought a great opportunity maybe to kill off Black Widow in the bombing at the UN where King T'Chaka died. I thought that, if you want to raise the stakes there.
Oh, yeah, that would definitely do that.
I think that could have been an opportunity. Peggy's death scene, I get it. I get the importance. And, we forget that this is the wrap-up trilogy to Captain America's story, right? So, obviously that plays a huge role through Cap's story. It just kind of drags, on rewatch. It just doesn't really do it for me.
Well, it ties into one of my nominees, but we'll get to that in a second. What else you got for me?
And then the return of the blank ball cap glasses disguise, which is teetering on the verge of what's aged the best. If we get it one more time, it's going in the what's aged the best column. That's where it's at.
I'm not going to fight
Spider-Man 3 level of cheesiness. Let's get that full turn.
Oh, God. We got to do that. We got to get in on those rewatches at some point, too. I know we're trying to get the MCU stuff, get to a certain point on those before Black Widow. But anyways, So for the nominees that I have, first of all, Bucky's super soldier serum, because we saw what happened in that prison scene where you get the other super soldiers brought in. Now, the first guy caught him off guard, but in general, those super soldiers or Winter Soldiers, they were messing around. They didn't care at all. And then we've seen what's happened in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So he's clearly got a diluted or knockoff, dollar store brand version of it where it works, but it's just.
Well, I wonder when he's in Winter Soldier form, is he more ruthless? Like when the brainwashed, now he's kind of nerfed. But I agree, even in his fight against U.S. agent and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he's having a little bit more of a difficult time. And then at every point here, he is just fighting everybody off, all of the Avengers with relative ease for the most part. And you have to imagine that his vibranium arm is stronger than whatever he has currently, or in Civil War.
He got it. He has vibranium now. I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember what he had in Civil War. But anyways, I remember initially when I was watching, I thought about the whole Bucky as a fighter versus Winter Soldier as a fighter, and his fighting style being what aged worse. But I feel like just in general, the Super Soldier Serum, it definitely makes a big difference. But look at what happened with him versus John Walker too. It had to be him and Falcon, and I know Falcon is just a normal guy in an awesome suit and everything, strong dude and everything. But you would think that having somebody there with you who knows what they're doing when they're fighting, and then you have Bucky who has a Super Soldier Serum should be enough against John Walker. But I mean, it took a lot. It took a lot for them to kick his ass in the end. So Bucky's Super Soldier Serum is a nominee for me. I have one that's head and shoulders above everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Alfred Woodard's standing in the MCU. So that is the mom who talks to Tony at MIT. She is also she's also Mariah from Luke Cage.
That's right. Yeah. Yep.
So it's like we never they could have made it work, but they never did. And if we're looking, we always talk about the connection between the Marvel Netflix shows and
they never want to do it.
They could have done it right there. They could have absolutely said like that is Mariah there, and they never did it. It was easy. It was on a silver platter. So
you get the same actress, and they go out of their way to not do it.
It's late. I mean, and it's kind of laziness on their part with the casting. How do you let that happen?
But it almost takes effort to like avoid it. To cast her and then be like, no, we're not gonna.
And she's she does a good job as Mariah. I thought that I really enjoyed her character in the show.
I kind of forget her, to be honest with you.
I thought she was a pain in the ass.
How I feel about the Netflix shows.
Right, this is true. For a moment there, I did forget. But either way, my number one nominee for the Mirror Match Villain Award goes, and it's going to go to this too. Stephen Sharon Carter's Kiss. Of course, seeing now that Cap went back in time and had his got back with Peggy and everything, it looks very odd. As much as Sam and Bucky's like head nods were fun, this looks much weirder now, having seen everything else.
It's very weird. We think our guy's got a heart of gold, and he's just like a homewrecker, and like she even says something throughout about like, did Peggy know about us when you were staking me out or something like that? They have some sort of conversation. Peggy kept so many secrets. I didn't want her to have this one for you. So she like never told Peggy about her having to tail Cap and Winter Soldier and all this stuff. So never even on the table. She's just keeping this one very close to the chest.
I see what you did there. Yes, I see what you're going for there. But either way, Stephen Sharon's Kiss is what absolutely aged the worst.
It's that or the stakes. Again, the stakes can be disappointing of it, but I couldn't be disappointed. I wouldn't be mad with either one.
Okay, that brings us to the Quantum Realm Award, which we talked about a little bit earlier when we had Goo on the unanswerable questions. Of course, Tony writing the Sokovia Accords is one. Well, I guess Goo's kind of answered it, but I have a couple questions here, Wes. At what point did Black Widow decide she wanted to help Cap? Like, because you talked about the whole double agent thing. I don't know, where was that definitive point? Was it when she realized the issue of the Winter Soldiers was in play, or when I forget when she noticed that, but even so, she told T'Challa, "I'd help you find them. I didn't tell you I'd help you capture them."
Yeah, or maybe she realized that she wasn't going to beat two super soldiers, and just herself with a stun gun or whatever she has, or something like that. And she's like, "Okay, well, this is my play out of here.
Yeah, hedge your bets.
I can stun Black Panther long enough to get them out of there, and I'm okay." And that's kind of what her whole deal is, right? It's survival.
And then speaking of Black Widow, her buddy who's on the other side, they are still confirmed friends. We find out later on. Hawkeye reveals that he went golfing in this movie, and I feel like you're going to appreciate this one. He golfed 18 holes, and he scored an 18, which is kind of a nod to the comics in some ways, because people talk shit about Hawkeye, how he's just whatever, but his bow, it takes, in the comics at least, it takes a ton of strength to pull that thing back. So that's the whole thing. So we find out that he shot an 18. Has he golfed again since this movie? And did he shoot an 18 again?
I want to check his pin number, his VIN number. I think that's what it would be. Because he's got to be lying. Get some eyes on him or something. But my real question with Clint is, what is he doing in this movie? I discussed this before. Like, the guy's retired, and now he's gonna risk his life to go, his life, his kids, his retirement for what? To go get beat and then gets put into a jail in the middle of the ocean?
Brutal. Oh.
Talk about terrible decision. Who asked? How could you ask him to do this? What did he think he was going to do to help? You have a guy who can turn to 80 feet tall. You have someone else who can shoot webs out of his hands, and this guy's again with a bow and arrow. Why did he think this would be a good idea to come out? What was he bringing to the table? Why would anyone come to him and be like, hey, man, this is what's happening?
Yeah, I mean,
We need you.
Well, the part of the problem is they're not asking Hawkeye there to help with the whole Sokovia Accords issue. They're trying to have him help with what's going on with the Winter Soldiers. So I get it. You got to go all hands on deck. But I do understand your point with the whole, like, when Iron Man says, I didn't ask you to come. You should have thought about that before you picked the wrong side. But it's like, Tony, you're talking to him right now, and you're here to see Sam because of the Winter Soldier hit. Why do you think Hawkeye was there? Not because of your stupid midlife crisis that you're having over I feel so bad for what I did for saving the world a couple times. I guess he should feel guilty if anybody does, but still, Hawkeye's not there because of your stupid paperwork. He's there because there's Winter Soldiers that are about to be activated that they're worried about, and they got to go make sure that they don't do shit because apparently they can take out an entire nation overnight.
Apparently, they were never going to be activated, but
we know
that was the big okie doke. If Thor and Hulk were in this movie, which side would they be on, and would it have altered the outcome?
I think Thor would have been on Cap's side. There's no doubt about that one.
You think so?
Yeah, and I'm fairly certain that Hulk would be on the other side.
They discussed this. They think Nat and Tony thinks Bruce would be on the on Cap's side as well. But I happen to agree with you, Bruce and Tony. I think Tony can kind of convince Bruce of a lot of different things, right? And kind of can get him to do whatever he wants. Ultron is a great example of that.
He doesn't trust himself.
And Vision, for that matter.
Yeah.
Thor is interesting. I don't think he would be as concerned about the politics as much, right? So
he would be on Cap's side by default.
He may not
get involved to begin with, but he's going to say, "You guys are going to tell me how I can and can't protect you. Get out of my face."
So who wins that? Obviously not. Yeah. What do you think? Does that make a big difference? I guess we're essentially asking who would win, Thor or Hulk.
I think if they're smart, they get Ant-Man to become giant, and then you just throw Hulk into orbit, and then you're fine.
Oh, okay.
And that's how you win. That's how you take him out of the equation, and then you win. Boom. See, talk about those guys being strategists. Boom.
All right, that's interesting. Okay. Does Tony say under ruse or on the roof when calling Spider-Man to grab Cap's shield?
How is this an unanswerable question? Of course he says under ruse.
He says under ruse?
Yeah. Did you watch it with the subtitles?
I watched it this time, but that was a big question that I always had because I could never tell. On the roof. Under ruse.
No, it's under ruse.
Yeah, but he is coming from the roof, so it makes sense. It's one of those, one of those real Lonnie Laurel things.
Oh my God, Yanni Laurel. Yeah, that is. I'll never. I mean, I get it. It was weird.
Rising bathroom on the right. That's
I heard it one way at first, and then it turned into another, and now I can't switch it back. It's so annoying. But
yeah. Speaking of Peter, why does Peter go immediately for Cap's arms after saying he was told that Tony to go for his legs?
I don't get.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I know what you meant. He was told to go for the legs, and then he went up for his arms right after he said that.
Yeah,
I don't know why Tony would say that in general. I understand Cap's jacked upstairs, but everybody's lower half is always stronger than their upper half. It's just a fact.
That's science.
And I don't get why he did that. I actually remember when I was rewatching it, thinking that was fucking stupid. You just talked about going for his legs, and you went for his arms.
Immediately goes for it too.
I was like, I thought for myself for a second, did I mishear him? Because he just did the opposite of what he said.
Speaking of hypocrisy, Falcon is kind of a hypocrite for making fun of Black Panther and Spider-Man's gimmick, right? Because he's a guy in a bird suit.
This is true.
Very weird. Like he's just like talking all this shit about, well, you're a cat, you're into cats. I'm like, dude, you have a drone that you call Red Wing that you pet and talk to. You know what I mean? We're talking about
make sure you thank them. Yeah.
So that didn't jive well with me. Why did Bucky kill Howard Stark with his metal arm and his wife with his regular arm?
This is a good one. I think that. Well, I think I don't know. I mean, when you look at, okay,
right? The dad, Howard Stark, is business, right? That was part of the mission, is to kill. He is the creator or owner of Stark Industries, right? That's business.
Mm-hmm.
Cold metal arm,
you're right?
Business. Mom is very emotional, loving, warm, human, right? Flesh arm.
Yeah, that's
I guess, right?
Right. Well, I thought about this because, of course, in episode 5 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Bucky says how he talks about and you guys talked about it on Shield Play how Bucky doesn't always think to use his metal arm because he's right-handed.
Yeah.
So I thought that was the case here, but then when you bring in how he took out Howard Stark too, the only thing I could say, I don't know why with Howard. I mean, it's his left arm, so maybe in Winter Soldier mode he thinks to always use his left arm, but with his mom. Of course, he doesn't need the metal arm to do what he's about to do. And also where she's seated and where he is, coming at the car, it makes sense where he'd use his right arm. Otherwise, you'd have to backhanded with his left arm.
That's what I was just thinking, right? So if you were on the driver's side, you would use your left arm. So that would be, okay. Yeah. So that makes sense.
The only thing, right?
Okay, so maybe it's not something very deep and mystical, and it was just convenience. Okay.
But it's a fair one. So where does your vote fall in all of this one?
This one's kind of tough. It might be going for the legs or Falcon being the hypocrite.
The going for the legs one is a weird one.
It's a tough one for me.
I mean, if we're going really unanswerable questions, I would really like to know what's up with Hawkeye's golf game as much as
actually, Clint in general. Just I think combine those two. What are you doing?
What's going on with Clint's life? Yeah, I agree with that one. That brings us to what does it all mean award for top Easter eggs and ties to the MCU. The mid-credit scene was, of course, we have Bucky and Steve in Wakanda, and Steve chooses to go back. Bucky chooses to go back under ice and teases more with Black Panther. Of course, we get this big look of Wakanda.
Yes, and the end credit scene is I set you up for failure there. I didn't even know
it's okay.
End credit scene. Peter arguing with Aunt May about where he got that bruise from. He says he got it from a boy named Steve in Brooklyn. How funny, how cute. Peter has a cool watch from Tony with the Spider-Man logo appearing. Nice reference to Spider-Man Homecoming.
And then we have for the Stan Lee cameo where he appears as a delivery man bringing Tony Stank the final message from Steve Rogers and a phone in case he ever needs Cap's help in the course of things, which of course pops up a little bit later on in the course of things. And you know what? I want to take a little aside here because Cap says how I will be there. And of course, later on we see in Endgame where Tony Stark comes back and then he gets pissed at Cap and he says, you weren't there. And we will do a rewatch.
You didn't know he was on a different planet.
Well, he was still fucking there. I'm sorry, Tony. I wasn't physically there with you and those guys fighting, but guess what? We were fighting here on Earth. So we could say you weren't here defending us at the same time either. And I wasn't there. He was
dehydrated on his deathbed. How much weight had he lost? The guy was crazy. So his mind wasn't working right.
Fine. I don't understand. Well, I guess Cap, Cap was just the bigger man in that moment where he didn't say, sure, I was fighting the fight too, just on a different front, because you can easily just say that.
I agree. I like it. Okay.
I think he learned a lot. Cap learned a lot from this experience where it's not always just about, you can't always protect people and kind of try to control their emotions. You got to let things run its course. But anyways.
Yes. Okay. So we have the mercenary working with Crossbones, who has a vial in the showdown with Black Widow. You remember her, right? Mm-hmm. That actor is Damon Poitier, whose face was used as the original Thanos during the mid-credit scene of Avengers.
So we need to retcon our Avengers episode and say what aged the worst, and that's Damon Poitier's standing in the MCU without question. All time, what aged the worst.
That is a big downgrade. Big downgrade. We had another Community reference, of course. The Russo brothers directed this movie. So with the Dean annoying Stark at the MIT conference there, we also get the Arrested Development staircase truck the Blues owned on the tarmac just before the fight scene. On the airport scene there. We get the raft, of course, a reference to the negative zone in Prison Alpha in the comic books, and then that pops up again in Falcon and the Winter Soldier with Zemo going there. Dare I say Taskmaster is already there?
Ooh, maybe. I got a couple comic book ones too, Wes, but I know also we have Steve saying that he could do this all day, which we've heard that a couple times.
Oh yeah.
So the flashback to the Winter Soldier, which we were talking about before, of course, we find out that Baron Zemo has killed them while they're still on ice. So he puts them on ice permanently, I guess. Like I said, we were talking about Winter Soldier comic book, which I believe the run was from like 2011, maybe 2010 to 2012, somewhere in that range. So there are the early aughts. And that story is focused primarily on those other Winter Soldiers, and they're dead when Bucky finds them. We find them here, but that's not the case in the comics. So it's a whole nother thing. I'll talk about it on TLDR this week, but that was one of the stories from the comics that gets brought in, but not only so much is done with that. It's more of a vehicle, much like the Sokovia Accords. It's more of a vehicle than what's actually going on within the story. Also, we have Black Widow asking Bucky if he recognized her while he's in Winter Soldier mode, and they had a relationship in the comics, as in like they got it on. And if you look at the cover of the book I'm going to be talking about this week, we have Natasha Romanoff alongside Bucky Barnes.
I see that though, but isn't it? I feel like we discussed this before. Didn't she? I mean, they would know each other from Captain America: Winter Soldier anyway.
That's true too, but either way, they didn't like. It felt.
I like the romance though.
As someone who, I mean, it could be just that, but in that moment where it gave me that vibe, and even then, if Winter Soldier mode, I don't know. That's a good point, Wes. I kind of overlooked that one, but to me, when I hear that, it made me think of them actually having a relationship.
It could be both. Yeah, why not both?
Which we should. This could have fallen under the unanswerable questions, but I'm hoping that we get an answer when we get the Black Widow movie, because I'm sorry, wouldn't it make sense if we had a Winter Soldier sighting in the Black Widow movie?
Yeah, and I think the Black Widow movie takes place right around now, like right around the time of Civil War.
Okay.
Post-Civil War with flashbacks.
Okay. Well,
so I think the main timeline is at 2016. Even
with flashbacks, give us like a Hugh Jackman, First Class-esque.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
If we're talking about Natasha's history and this family that she had, and we're going to look back at it, there's no reason we shouldn't see Bucky at some point in the course of things, because it was up until recently that he was involved in things. So, and then of course we have another allusion to the comics: Hawkeye shooting Ant-Man on an arrow. That is a nod to the Avengers 223 cover.
That was
so awesome. At least Hawkeye did something you did like.
Let's go with that. I like that one.
I like that one too. Hawkeye, look at this. He's winning. He may have.
He deserves a little credit, much like Mac. He deserves some credit.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute. Don't just give Mac a little credit. He's gonna get in trouble about that. But then we have Wes, the award that you truly shine in, the Shield Internet Sleuth Award for internet research on the movie.
Yeah, and I think we should get some Internet Sleuth shirts, some merch. Just Internet Sleuth, like the college print. You get the what's the movie there? Why am I blanking on it?
Animal House?
Yes, just like that John Belushi shirt. Maybe just with a small little Change My Mind logo underneath it there. Something like that. Something to ponder.
Maybe talk to a person.
Robert Downey Jr. was in the final negotiation stages with Marvel during the development of the film, and had those fallen through, the Cap threequel storyline would have been the following. The premise would have been centered around Zemo detonating the Mad Bomb, which would, quote, turn hordes of people into berserkers to present a physical threat to Captain America while still pitting heroes against each other, as some would be zombified due to the Mad Bomb to satisfy an emotional component for the film. Zombie superheroes, Nick.
Wow.
Zombie superheroes.
I hate that idea, but I love that find by you.
Very interesting, right? And again, that's the same reason why Pepper Potts wasn't in this. She was written thinking that her contract was going to get worked out for it. And they filmed stuff for it, but it could never appear. That's why she was written out. So very interesting there. The idea of basing a film on Civil War had been, quote, on and off the table for a while at Marvel Studios, explaining that it's a challenge to do it and make sure that all the characters that we've established and everyone's established in the MCU are serviced and sound correct. I thought that was worth noting just because of Justice League. You can see that the amount of care and effort and time that was put into this, and that they weren't going to just force something out to get that big buck.
All right, I'm going to throw one in here. Executive producer Nate Moore added, it felt right. It felt like it was kind of the right time to adapt Civil War, given the Avengers plus many other Phase 2 movies dealt with world-ending experiences. We felt like we had to tell the next step in that story, which is what is the world's reaction? Which I like. Yeah. They talk about it. Again, it's a vehicle here. It's not the main thing, much like that Winter Soldier storyline. Yeah, it plays a more prominent role in the course of things, but more, it ends up being about Cap's relationship with Iron Man, in a lot of it all. And that's why I like this movie still, but I really wish we could have gotten, and they couldn't do it at this point. They didn't have enough heroes. But the Civil War event, and you've actually gone back and read this, and we talked about it on it. Yeah, we talked about it on Change Your Mind. I forgot that we did that during the pandemic. We had we've done 2 comic book series on Change Your Mind. We did that, and then X-Men versus Avengers, and that was, I think, back-to-back episodes. So we talked about it. So we're definitely not doing that until you guys can go back and listen to it here. And it's like, how different it was from the actual movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought it was great. That was one of my first forays into digital comics, so I loved it. But I also liked the idea of addressing what's the world reaction, right? Because up until this point, we see Iron Man throwing, Hulk through buildings and all this like huge explosions and battles of New York and all that stuff and all this damage and wreckage. And what's the fallout for it? And with Spider-Man Homecoming, with WandaVision, with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you're starting to see the repercussions and kind of the fallout and the ripple effects of everyday people and how that's affecting them. So I kind of like them addressing that. Yeah. But moving forward, in September 2015, Mark Ruffalo stated that his character was originally in the Civil War script, but was removed due to the end of Age of Ultron, and they didn't want to reveal where he is and the why in the film.
Of course, we found out later on why, and it ended up working out really well, although it was something where it's like, they addressed it in the movie. But anyways, speaking of Hulks, Thunderbolt Ross's alter ego, Red Hulk, was also considered for this movie, but the Russos felt that part of the character would need a proper backstory, which they could not afford to give in the already crowded film. They felt that Ross was there sort of as the government's agenda to serve that out, and not to add another complicated, super-powered character to the mix. And honestly, I hate him in this movie. I think he's going to be a good character, and I think when he becomes Red Hulk, and I think I don't think the character was portrayed poorly in this movie. It's just that he's such a pain in the ass. Yeah. Where at the end of it, where he tells Tony at that prison, you're lucky that I don't have you in one of these jail cells. Wait a second, who the fuck do you think you are? You're gonna go and do that to me? And that's where, again, with Tony, it's see, you're a dumbass. You're putting the faith in the wrong people.
Yeah, and again, my favorite red herring in the MCU, Thunderbolt Ross. I would love this, but again, I think this speaks to just how the MCU and Marvel gets it right and DCU gets it wrong. They're not jamming in villains for the sake of villains with Deathstroke or Abomination or whoever, right? Darkseid, Steppenwolf, all of these things from Justice League that just felt forced in there, right? And it's just kind of like the story. You don't need to force them all in there. Let the stories tell itself,
right?
In the award showdown, Evans beat out Robert Downey Jr. for the 2016 Teen Choice Awards, Choice Movie Sci-Fi Fantasy Actor. Ooh. However, RDJ beat out Evans in the People's Choice Awards for the Favorite Action Movie Actor Award.
You got adults voting in that, and adults are lame. The teens know where it's at.
But maybe the tiebreaker, Evans also beat out Scarlett Johansson for the Kids' Choice Award for the Favorite Butt Kicker Award.
Oh, yeah, and he also has America's ass, so
he does, yes.
Roasted.
Also worth noting, and oddly enough, the Russo brothers, notably White, were nominated for the NAACP's Image Award for Outstanding Directing in a Motion Picture. They did not win.
That's an interesting nomination. Okay.
Yes.
But I think
that was interesting.
Speaking of nominations, Wes, I think the first one that you brought up, the alternate script or alternate plot plan for this movie, if Robert Downey Jr. is not in it, is the winner, clear cut for the Sleuth Award. Where do we go next after this?
We're going to the J. Jonah Jameson Award for the best performance by a side character, and just a couple of honorable mentions here for Thunderbolt Ross. I love him popping back up, and again reoccurring in here because I think this is him revamped in the MCU at this point. I don't think we had seen him all that much prior to this, so this is kind of his reintroduction to it. So
maybe not since Hulk.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the other nominations, Spider-Man, Black Panther, Ant-Man, I think those are the three heavy hitters.
Yeah, I just don't. I mean, I feel like it's. I don't know. I mean, Black Panther has that line. He comes in and he just absolutely kicks ass. But everybody's been waiting for the new Spider-Man, the MCU Spider-Man 2. I think Ant-Man, as much as I love him and as much as he has, he's got a huge slugging percentage in this thing though too, and batting average. Like it's got it all.
It's Spider-Man for me. I love Ant-Man. I love Black Panther, but I'm a sucker for Spider-Man. I thought he was great. They knocked the casting out of the park.
These are three characters who you like a lot, so I'm going to default to you on this one and going to go with Spider-Man too, because I like Spider-Man, but I've always said I'm not a big Spider-Man guy. Like he's probably not in my top 10 favorite heroes. So I'm always like thrown off when he gets thrown into the mix. I'm not there with everybody. But anyways,
before we get to who won and lost the movie, I forgot casting What Ifs, the Terrence Howard Awards. Let's hop in there real quick.
That's what I was going to go with next.
Do you want to go Black Panther for us?
You would make me do friggin' Black Panther. Okay. So from Korath we have. Oh wait a minute, no. This is Korath is from what's his name? Guardians of the Galaxy. We've seen him in a bunch of other superhero roles. He's in
Damon Hansu.
He's in thank you. Damon Hansu is he's in Shazam. He's the wizard in that, and then he's in a couple other things too. But yes, he plays Korath. I got thrown off there. I apologize. Adewale Akinowe Agbaje.
I think he's pretty good.
He's an elf in Thor 2. So is he the dark elf that becomes the super jacked one?
Yeah, Curse, I think is the name in there. Yeah, no, but I didn't recognize him from that, but I just thought that was interesting.
Anthony Mackie was considered for the role of Black Panther at one point. Interesting. Morris Chestnut, who I'm not familiar with. Michael J. White, who was, of course, Spawn from the live action movie that we saw. That was when we were really young when that came out.
Yeah, right. John Leguizamo style, yeah.
Chitwell? Chiweedle Ejiofor, who plays Mordo.
Yeah.
John Boyega, know that name. He's Finn from Star Wars. And then we have Wesley Sykes, who was Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, the casting conflict at the time. I couldn't.
Yes, I'm sure that would have been. That's the only Stonewall you would have ran into.
For it, but yeah, I just was busy.
Right. Okay. But Wesley Snipes.
I think what you see here is obviously this is something Marvel likes to do, right? Is that they'll have they like certain actors and they want them to try out for certain things, but maybe not the fit. Loki trying out for Thor and a bunch of other things, right?
And it shows how far in advance they're looking at some of these too, because Cap came out a little before this Winter Soldier. So yeah, playing chess.
Yeah, so I don't know. Morris Chestnut, you would recognize him if you saw him, but again, that kind of cat-like sleekness that I thought was perfect for Chadwick Boseman. Some of these actors are a little bit too beefy. Anthony Mackie looks like he beefed up for the Falcon role. I think he could be slimmed down for it. John Boyega seems a little too beefy.
Morris Chestnut is in. Oh my God, he's in. Lucifer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yes. There you go.
Yeah, he's a Menadil.
Great. Yeah, as Blade, you definitely he has that agility kind of factor, and he's got like a 4th degree black belt or whatever he is. So.
Yeah, but even when we look at like Mackie, right, which is again stunning that he was up for this when he already had Falcon. And of course, it would have been years before, but Mackie's got he more has like that physical, he's stronger. Whereas we look at Boseman, he's a little bit, like you said, sleeker. It's just interesting how they made that decision. It was the right move though in the end. He was awesome.
Yeah, in Spider-Man, we have Asa Butterfield.
I think that's Asa.
Yeah, whatever. That is a very funny name. It's like a porn star name or something like that. But I think he was in Ender's Game. I think that was the movie.
I have no idea who this kid is.
But Timothy Chalamet and Chandler Riggs, who's from The Walking Dead. You might be familiar with that, Nick. Tony Revolori, who, of course, plays Flash Thompson. And Charlie Rowe, who was Rocket Man, who played in Rocket Man.
Okay.
And that was Feige's personal choice, but Sony loved Tom Holland. So Sony did something right.
This Flash Thompson, the MCU's Flash Thompson, will never, ever, ever be my Flash Thompson. That guy sucks.
I know, it's tough. Yeah.
He's the I get that how bullying has changed a lot, but I'm sorry. Joe Manganiello is my idea of of an actual bully, an actual Flash Thompson.
Yeah, and how is he going to become Agent Venom? I don't see this guy becoming Agent Venom.
No, but who knows? I mean, people grow and they change. Puberty, well, I don't know how old this kid is. He could be already kind of an adult. But anyways, Chandler Riggs as Spider-Man, people would have hated that. That would have been awful.
Really, I don't know anything about it. Yeah,
that would have been. He was annoying. He served his role, I guess, in the show, but he was really annoying.
So yeah, I think the best one for casting What Ifs, if I had to go with it, Wesley Snipes. I'll go with Wesley Snipes for Black Panther, and we'll go Timothy Chalamet.
I'm gonna go with Chandler Riggs as my one for this because that was blown away like that. I did not realize it. That would have been awful. That would have been such a huge mistake.
Who lost the movie, Nick? Who got the sad Bucky Barnes award? And is it Bucky Barnes?
It's not Bucky Barnes. I have one nominee, and I think it's clear cut. It's the guy who lost a friend in this movie, who is pro registration and is a dumbass for as much as he's labeled as a genius. And again, like look what happens with him and Thunderbolt Ross at the end, where he's like, "You're lucky I didn't throw. You're not in one of these cells." I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Iron Man is the biggest loser in this. He gets my vote for this award.
It pains me to agree with you, particularly on this topic, most topics no less, but this one especially, because not only everything that you just said, but he takes a minor across international lines and involves him in a war between superheroes and breaks a newly formed law that he helped write. Not only that, he gets a friend paralyzed, and then he finds out how his parents really died. So that's kind of traumatic. That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So it's him far and away. A couple honorable mentions. War Machine. He gets paralyzed. That sucks. That's the only one who suffers like any amount of physical pain.
Yep.
He is pro registration, and he has the worst line of the movie, which we'll touch on a little bit later. And then last but not least, Clint Barnes. He got pulled out of retirement only to get locked on the raft and choose the wrong team. That sucks.
Yeah, that one's brutal. Clint, I would say I go Iron Man and Clint, and oddly enough, the guy who gets paralyzed at the end of all this. I'm going to put it at number 3 here, but Iron Man is my number 1 here. We're ready to go over to the Edith Award.
Yeah, who won the movie? I like your option here. I'm going to throw a couple out though.
I think you have another one in there that's really good too. So Bucky is my candidate for this. Of course, he has a brutal experience throughout this. He has to fight off Black Panther, then he has to go deal with Iron Man for shit that he didn't do with Black Panther. And then with Iron Man, he was freaking brainwashed. Of course, he didn't want to do that stuff, but he remembers all this shit. But then the reason why he's the winner or my nominee for this is by the end of this, he's at a place where he can be comfortable. And he goes under all the, gets under ice. And then we find out later how much Wakanda had an impact on him. We had an idea, but even in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we learned more about that too.
He just needed to sleep it off. Maybe he's just tired, cranky. You get a little angry when you're cranky, who hasn't been there?
Right.
Could either of Cap or Iron Man be the winner in this movie?
No. Cap could have been. Right? Cap could have been. I thought you were going to nominate Cap as a loser for this movie. I feel like he could have fallen under that award too.
I agree with him morally in this movie.
Right. But he just goes through so much. It's such a brutal experience for him because he's
Yeah,
but no.
And I what I really love is that he is a stick in the mud too. So he's just gonna sit down and be a donkey and just drag his feet.
I will say where we talk about the issues of how they're controlling him. You bring up stick in the mud, how he's written in Marvel lore or MCU lore, where he's like this goody guy, goody two shoes guy. As much as he's not being that here now. He's much more like
takes everyone out of the raft by the end of it, right?
He's taking a stance and sticking to one side, and he's still trying to do the right thing like he always does. But he's on
not
one
just
side,
rolling along to get along.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the honorable mention is Spider-Man. Again, I love him in this movie. I think that raised a whole new level of excitement, for the MCU and his addition into that. I thought Homecoming was great. But I think the one that can contend with Bucky, and I think Bucky is good, is Zemo. I agree. Probably the best, for my money, the best pound for pound MCU villain in there. The second best MCU villain that we had to this point in our rewatch outside of Loki, right? And I don't think there's anyone else that really jumps out and comes to mind. And he carries out his plan. He's effective, and he is single-minded. He can carry it out. He's like very, very efficient. I just like the cut of his jib. I like the way that he moves. I like the way he acts. He's like he knows all the pieces on the chessboard at all time, and he's like 3, 4, 5 moves ahead.
Now, I would have, and actually an honorable mention too for the Edith Award too. Now, a distant nominee. I think Spider-Man's also a distant nominee. But Black Panther, his character comes on screen.
Sure, absolutely.
Excited. Of course, the character aged very well and everything too. But I think Zemo is a legitimate candidate. But at first, when I saw you considering him, I was actually going to lean his way. But then I remembered an issue that I had in the course of the movie where he's actually talking to T'Challa at the end of all this and saying how, or in general, where he talks about how the Avengers should not be allowed to exist. And of course, we see more than in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Mm-hmm. Well, that whole stance, I understand there are some issues with it, but nothing is perfect in life. And I'm sorry, that whole approach that it shouldn't exist ages very poorly when you go and see what happened in Endgame. I get the whole idea of what Vision is talking about, his theory that you have the power incites challenge, but Thanos was going to come through and do his shit no matter what.
Yeah, it's true.
So if you didn't have that, then you're screwed. It had nothing to do with anything. Thanos was just out there. So I go. That's where my vote is going to stick with Bucky in all of this one. But yeah, Zemo's theory, that whole thing was a little off in the end.
We got a hung jury. I think that's a great point. We got a hung jury though. I'm sticking with Zemo on this one.
Okay, maybe we got one poll.
I think you bold. I think you put together a compelling argument, my friend.
Thank you.
Okay, the best quote award. How about some of this? This is some of your favorite stuff, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I mentioned earlier, my name's Clint. I do not care. Can you move your seat up? No. Got tired of shooting golf? Well, I played 18, shot 18. This one's my personal favorite, but I think we may end up having the winner may end up being the actual worst quote in the movie because it's the one we all remember most. But
and it was marketed so hard.
My favorite one is Hank Pym always said, "You can never trust a Stark." I love that out of Paul Rudd. Just a good old fuck you to Tony Stark.
Yeah, and you also in that same scene you get Clint, the futurist, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my god,
futurist.
Yeah, Jeremy Renner showed up. Yeah,
so it's great. Yeah, so even though it may not have been a great showing for Clint, it was a great showing for Jeremy Renner in this movie. So, I like this is classic Tony Stark. You're always good for a little banter. This feels like a classic throwaway line in like a comic book, like an actual comic book. But he says, "Who's putting coffee grounds in the disposal? Am I running a bed and breakfast for a biker gang?" Yeah. And the way he enunciates all the B's just really hits home to me. I really enjoyed that one.
That is a good one, Wes. But in the end, all of them fall short to the worst quote maybe that we've ever had in the MCU. Congratulations, Cap. You're a criminal. From Rhodey, War Machine.
And if you didn't think that could get any worse, he follows it up too with Your Highness when Black Panther takes off his helmet too. So it's like the two of them. It's just like, oh, it's so bad. But again, that was heavily marketed. That was in the trailers. That was everywhere. Mm-hmm. And it was bad.
When we don't do a worst quote award because MCU is not known for having a whole heck of a lot of worst quotes, maybe we'll do that with some other stuff. Well, I mean, not as many. I mean, maybe you have one every so often, but this is absolutely brutal. So this gets my vote for best quote award. It's so I wouldn't say it's so bad that it's good, but it's so bad that it's just unforgettable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you can point to a number of the kind of quick remarks, quips from Spider-Man when he's doing his whole web shooter, web 'em up thing. I think that's a lot of fun. That thing does not obey the facts of science, or whatever. That's great.
Yeah, there's the metal arm thing too, right?
Right. So I think, Peter does a whole lot of great things there, but I'm with you. Yeah. You're a criminal. That's it. I think we did it. I think we got this. Is a bit of a milestone episode for us here in the MCU Rewatch Vault with the Civil War. So it's a little bit lengthy. So we appreciate you sticking with us here. But now I think, unless there was anything else that you wanted to add, our newly minted segment, the Discharge Depot, at your service, sir. What'd you do this weekend, Nick?
So I finally watched Whiplash. I had not seen this movie. I've wanted to see, as much as I'm not a Miles Teller guy, I have wanted to see this since it was first marketed, Wes. And it's funny. I watched it with Lauren, and there are certain things that happened in this movie that stressed her out. And I think stressed the average people out, like J.K. Simmons, a lot of his craziness. Honest to God, a lot of the shit that he did, I felt like he went a little too far. But I was like, oh, okay, like I can see it. I don't know if that's like my sports background or whatever.
Probably the sports background, but I think more importantly, Nick, now again, I think this is just another instance of Lauren opening you up to a whole new world. I'm envisioning her as Aladdin, and you are Jasmine right now, and you're about to hop off the ledge onto the magic carpet ride. She's about to show you a whole new world of media.
You're just trying to get her to listen to us more and more. She already listens to us every week, so don't worry about it. You don't need to be that nice to her.
I'm just saying. I just think I like this new side of you. You know.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Maybe she's the reason why I'm making a few people laugh here and there now. But
don't go that far, Nick. That credit deserves. It's all you on that one.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Now, one thing I introduced her to is the show Invincible. Episode 6 came out this
She's into it? It's not too brutal?
No, she's into all this stuff at a different level, but she likes all this stuff. And the one thing that I want to say, because you're behind on the show right now, and maybe we'll talk about it on here, maybe we won't. We're not sure yet. But we did talk about it on TLDR for those looking to get a more in-depth look at Invincible. And we didn't get into too many specifics, but just general idea stuff about how there are parallels with the show now that I'm seeing with the comic. But more importantly, Wes, what I'm seeing is that Kirkman, it really looks like he learned from his The Walking Dead experience, where it was a good show. I've gone back and rewatched some stuff, and they're good episodes, man, are fucking bangers. There's no question about it. Like the final episode at the farm and all that stuff, awesome. But there were a lot of lulls. And what I'm seeing with Invincible, they're going with the thing, like the major stuff. They're cutting out a lot of the fat that it's good in comics, but you can't, and it still serves a purpose, but you gotta maneuver things a little bit when you're doing a show because it's a different type of audience. So he's really learned from that, and I'm excited for future projects that he'll work on, comic book to show translations. But this show I've really enjoyed this.
Love it. Awesome.
What have you been up to? Golf?
No. So I covered a golf event instead, and I immediately regret it. You kind of get into this habit when you start doing freelancing, you say yes before you really even consider what else you might have going on.
Yeah.
So I said yes, and I avoided. So I had to cancel golf and dinner plans. And I forgot dinner plans were happening. Golf was semi on the table, and I accepted this event. And it was cool because I thought it was just going to be 12 to 4. I had a 6 o'clock deadline. It was great. That the championship round was supposed to tee off at 12. They don't tee off until 2. Now I'm there at 12:30, just hanging around until 6:30. Mind you, the deadline was at 6. Deadline gets pushed back to 7.
Oh, wow.
And then so at 6:30, I have 30 minutes is when they finish to come off the 18th. So I have 30 minutes to finish writing, interview, transcribe, and edit. All in, and then come back and copy edit with my editor just to kind of go through once again everything, all in 30 minutes, and I'm just kind of waiting around for 5 hours. So the point of this is not to complain about my job and what I was getting paid to do and what I went to school for and all that, but it's to say that for freelancing assignments, I don't think I'm going to do sports that don't have time limits anymore.
I think that's fair. That's brutal, Wes. Look, I understand not complaining and being appreciative of work that you have, blah, 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 but that's freaking ridiculous. I've covered quite a few golf events.
It was just cold and hungry. You're just out there on the course by yourself all day. You can't play. You're just watching guys play, which
I've never dealt with that before, man, and I've covered quite a few golf outings. That's horrendous. That's tough. But that deadlines now, too, are crazy. They were crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's 7 o'clock. I mean, there's a 6 o'clock deadline. What the fuck is that shit?
Yeah, so it was a soft deadline so they could have time with them. But 7 o'clock was the drop dead. Yeah.
There.
But
still.
Yeah, so it was. I don't think I'm doing. I love baseball. I love the Cape Cod Baseball League. It's my previous job when I was covering it, I could kind of come and go when I was pleased with a weekly paper. It wasn't really on deadline like that. So I could just kind of come and go.
Yeah, but now a little different.
Now it's a little different. So I'm not sure if I would want to be doing that. I'll cover a hockey game in a cold rink before doing that again.
I like doing it there. As long as you get to go in the box, then you're fine. Then we're okay.
Oh yeah, but then you don't pick up as much. I can't hear things either, so it's I don't pay attention as much.
Well, there you go. That's true. I guess speaking of not listening to things.
Shared universe.
So what else is going on in the DSG this week? Well, hashtag Dork is reviewing a movie that we reviewed when it came out last year, New Mutants, which is on HBO Max. They're actually talking about it right now as we're doing our live stream because they stream right after us every Monday night. If you guys want to hear more New Mutant stuff, go back. I feel like that was 50, it feels like it was 50 episodes ago, but
it was almost a year ago, wasn't it? Or maybe it was in the summer. Maybe it was in August.
I watched that in the theaters. I don't remember what you did.
No, I streamed it illegally.
That's right.
Yes, bleep that out, Nick. Mac and Goo did their 300th episode special, Know Your Bro, with a whole bunch of DSG members, as well as the Dork Boys. But it was on episode 299, as we already hashed out.
Yes, it was. And then the People for Communism podcast is actually going to, I don't know if this is in line with us, but I really appreciate that PCP is doing this. They're going to focus on Marvel's Red Room. So that's what happened with Black Widow and everything there, and it gets very violent, very graphic with all that kind of stuff. I don't know how far PCP is going to go, but we know they like to push the limit. So good for you guys.
Do they refer to Putin as the Red Guardian, or
I don't? You know what? That's a good question, and maybe we should ask them to address that going into the episode, so that way we can kind of get some clarity on that. I would like to know where they stand on Mother Russia. We all know Rossi, of course. His mother's side of the family hails from there. But anyways,
Mother
and then
Russia,
Rossi,
right, of course.
yes, of course. And then with Rossi, I believe is Italian, so we know where his allegiances lie on the other side. But I'm sure it was very conflicted. Well. Never mind. Anyways, with TLDR this week, I'm talking about Winter Soldier. Doc is going to be talking about Bliss, which is a book written by Sean Lewis, who we've had on the show before. And again, we had Cullen Bunn on. So I know that I believe Keith is a fan of Cullen Bunn. Maybe Davey. I don't know. I don't know about Shine. But Doc's a big fan of his. I like his stuff a lot too. The guy who wrote Deadpool Killed the Marvel Universe. That's him. So, and he's also written Darth Maul. We talked a little Moon Knight because he wrote some Moon Knight stuff when he was a few years back. So. I mean, and all his indie work too. So
who else is a fan of Cullen Bunn?
Oh boy,
is Abe Froman, the Sausage King of Chicago.
Wow. Okay, I didn't expect that. And then this week,
pretty good. Come on,
yes, it is. It is. Yes, yeah, you got me there. And then Cap's Boost this week. Or no, wait a minute, it's Shield Play?
Shield Play, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier podcast, episode 6. We'll see what everything comes to a culmination.
And then we have the Pineapple Boys. I've heard it both ways. They stream on Twitch every week on Doc's Twitch, and then, of course, on the PCP Twitter account, and then on the DSV Facebook page. I say that because their audio version is never available. I don't know what the fuck Rossi's problem is, but it's pissing me off. And then speaking of streamers, Doc, Davey, Shine. Go follow them.
Yeah, there we go. You never had a problem with me uploading TLDR on the my own podcast. Just say that.
Never an issue whatsoever, Wes. But not everybody can be like you. You're a special human being.
Yes. Next week we'll be doing Falcon and the Winter Soldier exit survey, and you can listen to that at the same same bad time, same bad place. Son of a